So many people are always asking us, how do we learn about how to read nutrition labels and ingredient labels? And today I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that thing. So if we look at this nutrition label we have put on here, there's a few different key markers that we need to pay attention to. So we have serving sizes, which will usually just be a weight. It's the most accurate way of tracking serving sizes. We have the calorie amount, we have the total fat, we have the total carbohydrates, and we have the protein. And all of those get broken down more in depthly than that. So this particular food is a top sirloin steak. So it won't have an ingredient label because when you buy healthy single ingredient foods, they don't have to put an ingredient label on them. So one of the first things to pay attention to when you look at a nutrition label to understand what you're eating is to look at the serving size and the calories, because this is where they trick you a lot. A lot of companies, let's just say sauce companies, will put a 10-calorie nutrition label on something and you think that it's healthy to eat as much as you want. But what they'll do is they'll sneak in a tiny, tiny little serving of 1/4 teaspoon of the sauce. So while you're using a few tablespoons of the sauce, which adds up to 150 or 200 calories, you feel like you're using a 10-calorie sauce. So this is one reason to always check the calories in relation to the serving size. And here, obviously, we're eating steak, so we have a pretty good setup. So the next thing that we'll break down is going to be the total fat number. So over here, we'll see percentages of the calories and where they come from. But here we have a total fat of 14 grams. And you'll see that broken down into the different fat increments. So here we have 6 grams of saturated fat, but on other lists, you might have trans fats, which are horrible for you. You might have monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, which are a little less bad, but should be avoided. The monounsaturated fats being amazing for you. So you can see how they're going to break the fat down into the different categories, and you're going to see the exact grams of fat you'll have there. The next thing you'll see on here is usually sodium. And sodium is not something you need to worry about as much as you think, as long as you're eating a natural product. If you're eating something that's full of junk, then you want to avoid the sodium because it's going to be a processed, crappy sodium. It's not going to be very good for you. But the sodium in natural, healthy, single ingredient foods is going to be great for you. Cholesterol you'll see on here. Cholesterol is another one of those things that people seem to avidly avoid, but the research has been very clear. Cholesterol is great for you. Cholesterol is what we use to make all the hormones in our body. Your body uses cholesterol and converts it into pregnenolone, which is what you make testosterone and neurohormones and thyroid hormones, adrenal hormones out of. So making sure you have a little cholesterol in your diet is not a bad idea. As we go farther down the list, we see total carbohydrates. This is going to have 0 because it's meat. I said that's one of the best things about having meat in your diet is you can reduce carbohydrate intake significantly. And you'll see once again, they break that down into dietary fiber, total sugar, and added sugar. This is something you see on all these lists. And that's because a lot of products will not only have sugar in them, they have added sugar. Sugar that was never meant to be in that product, that was added later to sweeten it up. You see it in almost all foods nowadays. It's something you want to avoid if you can. And as we keep climbing down the list, we have protein, the most important number in our opinion. If you're eating foods or at least meals that don't have at least 30 to 35 grams of protein in them, you're making a massive mistake. You're not going to be as healthy or as satisfied with what you get out of your meals as you could be. As you get below that in all of them, you'll see that they have certain nutrient panels. So on healthier foods, like a single food steak, you'll notice it has quite a bit of iron in it, has a good amount of potassium in it. As we look over here on this food, there's quite a bit of iron and potassium as well, which is also from a healthier source food. Over here, this has a massive nutrient panel because they add it full of vitamins. But knowing how to read these labels is very important because almost all these vitamins are going to do nothing for you, and they're going to be absolute junk because the sourcing of them is horrible. So this is why it's so important to know how to break these labels down. Something to know here is that every gram of fat is going to be 9 calories. Every single gram of carbs is going to be 4 calories, and every single gram of protein is going to be 4 calories. And this all added up is how they get that calorie number that they put on the box. But one of the things that's tricky when it comes to food companies is the FDA allows them to round numbers in a certain direction. They do this often. This is why you see a lot of sauces and products on the shelf that round down to 0 calories by putting a very small serving size. And what you end up with is people thinking they have 0 calories going in, but really they have 3 or 4 calories per serving with a tiny little serving size that they're using 10 or 20 times more than, and they end up eating 80, 90 calories from a 0 calorie source. You see this in certain hot sauces, you see this in certain marinades. It's a very common thing. So as we understand how to read a nutrition label, we can see how we can make better choices to keep carbohydrates a little bit lower, keep protein higher, and try to make sure we're picking things where we're going to get a bigger serving size for the right calories. And as we look at some of the ingredient labels that we broke down in our last video, we can see that some of the healthiest products are full of canola oils and seed oils and processed sugars and junk. And some of the foods that you find on the shelf that are delicious are full of clean, healthy ingredients. But if you want to be the healthiest you can be when you're looking at nutrition labels and avoid all the stress of counting ingredients, is go with single ingredient foods. Single ingredient foods would be things like an apple or a potato or a steak. Something that was grown or killed, something that's natural from the earth will always be a single ingredient food. And if you fill your diet full of those, not only will they always have a pretty good macro sheet, but they're going to be far superior for your health and you're going to feel a lot better eating them. And if you can start entering all of this into your mind when you go to the grocery store, you'll start making better selections where you can feel better and where you can move better, and the way your body looks is going to start shaping up really quick.